I am an addict. And I'm not giving you some trite BS about being addicted to FPV. I am, or I was, an addict. Let's get real here for a minute. I've given you some stories, some ideas, things that are good to know, but let's talk about real life for a minute. In my past, I developed an addiction. For me, it started out doctor prescribed. It developed slowly over several years. But eventually I got to a place where I could not be without this drug that my doctor was prescribing me. And I went on to find more and more and more of it. Eventually, I was taking so much that probably would kill a normal person, but for me, that was just what I needed to get a little high and get through the day.
I've been walking over graves, carving out the headstone that I own, my own. I'm like a monster in a cage, trapped inside a maze. I am home. I'm home.
At the same time, my oldest son was born, and right around that time as well, my wife left. My addiction had reached a place, and my mental health was so unstable that I was a danger to her and to my son.
I'm here and gone. I'm dead and done.
So she left, and shortly thereafter, I quit. And it was just one day, I said, that's enough, and I stopped. And I lived about 9 months in hell.
I resent how I walked away. Now I'm digging my own grave. Now I'm digging my own grave.
I don't know how I managed to stop the way that I did. It's not the typical route to success for addicts. Typically there's support, there's help. For me, it was a descent into madness. I didn't have that drug in me anymore. I kind of came unglued for a while. And I look back on that time as I sat in this apartment that I was supposed to be sharing with my family. Going to work mechanically, and the walls they dripped misery. It was awful. It is, to this day, the worst time of my life.
Is there peace beyond the rage? Tell me where this truly all went wrong.
And yet, I look back on it now, and I think to myself, you came from there. That is where you came from. The person that you are today was born in the misery of those 9 months. When you quit and you stopped and you wrestled with yourself, you became someone on the other side of it.
I've been walking through the graves, dancing with the lonely and the strong, the strong.
That was 12 years ago. And to this day, I can say that I'm clean.
I'm hearing God. I'm dead and done.
For those of you that have overcome it, let me say this to you. You know where you came from. Hold your head high. If you've overcome an addiction, and if you are now in a better place because of it, hold your head high. You deserve it.
I know there's nothing I can change, and I regret the things I didn't say.
For those of you that are still wrestling with it, for those of you that are not clean, there's hope. It can be done. It's not easy, but you can overcome this thing.
I resent how I walked away.
For those of you that have never wrestled with it, count yourself as blessed. There's just a certain set of people that are not drawn to these kind of things. And truthfully, I wish I had been one of those people. But then again, I wouldn't be who I am without that time.
Now I'm digging my own grave. Now I'm digging my own grave.
One of the things that I love about FPV is that I can fly now and get that high that I was looking for back then, except it's cleaner, it's freer, it's better. There is a freedom in flight that there really isn't in chemicals. And I treasure that. I treasure that a lot. For those of you who are still struggling, who are trying to get through it, reach out to the folks around you and try to get the help that you need. It is not an easy thing to overcome by yourself. The odds and the statistics are against you. But with support, with help, with the right people, you can overcome this thing too. And for those of you that have never wrestled with it, that have never been an addict, don't look down your nose at the addicts. Nobody chooses this. Nobody wants to call themselves an addict. I never did. I honestly, quite frankly, before it happened to me, I was too good for something like that because that was never going to happen to me. And sure enough, it did. And I'll tell you what, it was humbling. So look at your brother with compassion. Understand that there are things that are going on that are extraordinarily difficult to deal with. That doesn't mean you have to support the addiction. That doesn't mean that you have to, first, I know, for me and for some of us out there that have relatives and friends that are dealing with it, it's hard to be there day by day when someone just violates your trust over and over again. But try to maintain the compassion in your heart for your fellow person that's going through this really awful time.
I know there's nothing I can change, and I regret the things I didn't say. I resent how I walked away.
For those of you that have overcome, you're overcomers. Remember that place. Remember that misery. Remember that agony. Look back on it and remember that you were strong enough.
Is there peace beyond the rage? 'Cause I've been digging my own grave.